Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I have about 7 topics for this video. They are all related to Russia, Ukraine, and in this case Japan and Slovakia. We're going to talk about the war, the new developments over there, the destruction of Chasiv Yar, 2 settlements conquered by the Russians, the missile drone attack on Ukraine last night, and more. So let's start with the first article coming from Ukrainska Pravda. And this is from Wednesday, the 27th of November, 2024. Jesus Christ, what's going on with my nose? Growing. Ukraine's defense, am I lying too much or something? Ukraine's defense downs 36 UAVs. 5 fly back towards Russia, Belarus, and temporarily occupied territories. Okay, 36 and 5 fly back. How many do you think were disabled by the electronic warfare systems? Yeah, usually it's the same as how many they down. So if it's 36, probably about 30, 32, maybe 42. Let's see. Russia has targeted Ukraine with 89 Shahed UAVs and drones of an unidentified type on the night of the 26-27 November. Ukrainian Defense Forces have successfully downed 36 drones while 48 disappeared from radar due to electronic warfare interference and 5 flew towards Russia, Belarus, and the temporarily occupied territories. So we got what? 36, we got what? 84, and then what? 84 and how many? And 5, right? So it's what? 89? So that means zero success. So remember, 36 were down, 49 were just disabled, or differently abled, how you want to call it, and then 5 flew back to mommy. That means 0 success. Good, man, good, very good, very good. And again, Russia launched 89 Shahed UAVs and drones of an unidentified type in the cities of, from the cities of Orel, Bryansk, Kursk, Primorsko-Akhtarsk. Why do you think they give you these names? I think now, more than before, they give you these names so you know, tell the Western baboons, the guys in charge actually, not the baboons, these guys are the baboons who are dying for the guy in charge, to tell us, the baboons, those were the locations where the evil attacks are launched from. Therefore, give us long-range missiles or whatever you give us to attack those military, locations and all that. So let's see where Orel, Bryansk, Kursk, and Primorsko-Akhtarsk are located. They're all obviously in Russia. One is actually all of them are in Russia. Did they say Did they say occupied? No, they're all in Russia. So let's go to the map. Here it is. So we're going to go north here, and it says Bryansk, Oriol, Kursk. So these are the guys, the offenders. So ATACMS and others could be hit here, maybe Tomahawk now. And we have Primorsko-Akhtarsk. It's right across from the Sea of Azov, right here. This is where my stronghold is, Primorsko-Akhtarsk. Sometimes they launch from Yeisk, which is north of it, right here. So this is where the attacks occurred from. So from the south and from the, let's say, northeast, southeast. Let's see what they targeted. All right, they attacked Kiev, Chernihiv, Sumy, Kharkiv, Poltava, Zhytomyr, Khmelnytsky, and Mykolaiv Oblast. So Kiev, Chernihiv, Sumy, Kharkiv. Chernihiv, Sumy, Kharkiv. Then Kiev here, Poltava here. They said Mykolaiv right here. They say Khmelnytsky, Zhytomyr, Kiev. So this area. Not the Polish side of Ukraine or the Hungarian side of Ukraine. The Romanians will never get this back. Just so you know, they'll never get their thing back. Why? The master does not allow that. All right, next one. Ukrinform, Ukraine downs 36 drones, 48 lost. Just, all right, lost from radar. Now, if they're lost from radar, is it because they hit a target? No. All right, let's see what else they did in this little article. There's no missiles reported here. All right, let's go to the next article. The next article has to do with the Russians. Unfortunately for some, fortunately for others, occupied, conquered, liberated, what kind of words you want to use, 2 settlements in Donetsk Oblast and advance in Kharkiv Oblast. So Kharkiv, Kharkov, and in Donetsk. So there is, probably going to talk about the Pokrovsk, which is right here in Donetsk, and Kharkiv is right here. Probably by Kupiansk. Look what's going on over there. Definitely they advance towards Kupiansk along this beautiful river. They weren't able to cross it yet, but I suspect that's going to happen. This right here is going to happen pretty fast. Pretty fast. And the other one, as I said, in Pokrovsk, and I will go over there because that's where they start from. Right here, Pokrovsk is where my strong hand is located, right here. So again, the situation is bad in this area where you have Kurakove or Kurokovo, whatever Ukrainian or Russian name you want to use. So let's see, they show you here, Kurakova, right here. And this is the area where these guys say the Russians advanced. Analysts from the DeepState project reported on the night of 26-27 of November that the Russian forces had occupied the village of Novoselidivka on the Kurakove front and the village of Petrivka on the Pokrovsk front in Donetsk. So these are, as I said, located in this area. Pokrovsk front is this right here, and then you have here the Kurakovo. Kurakovo is right here. So these guys are doomed. It's just a slow death here. Unfortunately, people die for other people's interests. The enemy has occupied Novoselidivka and Petrivka. The analyst also reported Russian advances near the village of Novomlinsk and in the village of Kruhlyakivka, Kharkiv Oblast. In addition, the Russians made gains near the settlements of Papa Pip in Donetsk Oblast. Look how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in Donetsk. 10 advanced and 2 liberated or occupied. And the other one, as I said, Kharkiv, Kharkov, that is where this front is in the far east of Ukraine, right here. This area. This area. All right, let's go to the next topic. New Voice of Ukraine. Russians decimate Chasiv Yar. Nearly all housing destroyed, city under siege. MVA. The head of Chasiv Yar's military administration said on Espresso TV that Russians have nearly obliterated the city, employing all available weapons. No nuclear weapons. That's not all. You're lying. Why? I mean, if you have available or available to them. The Russians, he said, not those particular ones. So no, I think that's a lie by omission, by exaggeration, by generalization, by whatever. And I'm quoting. The situation in Chasiv Yar is stably severe. Stably severe, so he's almost dying. Unfortunately, there have been no improvements recently and none are expected. There is constant shelling, constant buzzing. Sadly, very little remains of the city I know and remember. Why? Let's see where Chasiv Yar is. That is west of Bakhmut, which is north of Pokrovsk nowadays. So we're going nowadays. Always been, but nevertheless. Here, this is Donetsk. This map is just garbage, but nevertheless, we work with whomever we can. Here, this is Pokrovsk, and here is Chasiv Yar by Artemovsk or Bakhmut. But they're advancing. I told you, I tell him go left and it goes right. Right here. All this. So I have one thing to say about, 33 seconds, which is this. Why did you fight from within the city? And if you say, well, to defend them, then didn't you expect this outcome to occur? The evil Russians to flatten it? So I think partly you are responsible for that too. Why didn't you meet them like we used to on a playing field and say, okay, we're going to fight one like men? Oh, because the war is not like that. So when you hide behind all those things to protect your country, I understand that. But you can't just say, well, the guys just destroyed it. I think you defending inside the city, I think that played also a role at the poor city's destruction. And I always use this example. Do you remember in the Second World War, when the other evil guys, the Germans, Wehrmacht, they were approaching Paris, France. Do you know what the Parisians did? They declared Paris an open city. What does that mean? That means that they allowed them to come in, but with no destruction. So the Germans occupied Paris without destroying anything over there. Now these guys decided to fight, and they fight. So it's sad what's going on over there, but I think you also are to be blamed that you are doing this. You could try to put your defense troops or whatever lines in front of the city, the side of the city, but you fought from within. Why? To cause as much as possible death to the other guys. And these guys took care of you. Now, yeah, I understand the Russians are the invaders, okay? They're the bad dudes. But what did you do? You can't control what other people do. Or in this case, you could have controlled. Say, okay, Chasiv, we declare Chasiv Yar an open city. You could have done that, but you didn't. Now think about it. Think about it. I don't like when they come with this kind of, oh, they destroyed the city. You were in the city defending the city. All right, let me show you another article, which is really it goes without saying. But these guys from the Institute for the Study of War, they think that is very, how should I put it, necessary for them to let us know that the Russians want Ukraine's capitulation. Russia rejects the possibility of freezing the front line and insists on Ukraine's capitulation. Institute for the Study of War. Not trustworthy, but from time to time they have to build their credibility by telling some truthful things or analyzing things right. Indeed, Russia would not agree with that, so those guys can arm and then start over. No, you don't go halfway and then you turn back. You got the Russians in, all right? Now you have them in. And I hope that all this thing will happen in the right way. So that means the Russians don't have to attack anymore or can't attack anymore. I am inclined to hope that if the Russians do the right thing, then NATO will just back the fuck off a little bit. But no, they don't. I will show you why. They will go to other areas to steal garbage. Ukraine is not the last battle. The problem is the same thing will end in the same defeat unless the Russians in defeat of who. If the Russians are becoming pussified, I'm talking about the leadership. If they become pussified, then yes, Russia will lose. That's the only time when they do. They can't lose. Why? They have nuclear weapons. They can fuck everybody up just like this. And since they told us all the time that they are mad and crazy and irrational, and they just invade independent sovereign countries unjustified, then they can, in the same matter, use nuclear weapons. But somehow they didn't. Is it because they're afraid? Well, a crazy person doesn't know what's right or wrong. He's not afraid. He's crazy. So it doesn't make sense. That's why when these guys portrayed that guy as being madman and crazy and has no rationale, he just was full of hatred, unexplainable hatred, illogical hatred, but he was a hater. The same thing here. Somehow that guy, as this guy right here, which is Putin in this case, he's not using his weapon that could stop the whole thing tomorrow, as a madman as described. Makes sense? Did you meet this kind of people in your life? They're logical sometimes and they are not, but you call them crazy? I mean, you either are crazy or not, or just sometimes you are, sometimes you're not, according to my interpretation of who and how you behave. Well, after all, okay, move on. I was about to say something about the Bible again. So here you have, I have a question regarding this article. Ukrainska Pravda. More than 40 Ukrainian generals discharged for health reasons since start of full-scale war. Media. Now, I have a feeling that they were not because they were, had some high blood pressure or some, sugar in the blood, or their cock went down. No, I think these guys were either blown up by the Russians so far, lost their lives, and they say, well, we just discharged them, or they were wounded as fuck. I mean, it's a war. I don't know how to tell you. It's like you go in a war in a and then you go home with a purple medal here because you stepped on a on a banana peel or something. Is that how it is? Banana, I don't know how it's called, that peel. What are the odds? It's not impossible, but you have 40 Ukrainian generals just discharged for health reasons. I suspect these guys, some of them are not with us anymore. They are with them and or some of them are just, okay, incapacitated, wounded as hell. Why? It's a war. What's the probability? You go, I mean, first, I don't believe what these guys say to start with. I don't believe anybody. As long as I build a trustful relationship with that person, then you lower the guard. But always, here, if I didn't build your trust, if I didn't win your trust yet, always verify. And verify even if I make a claim. I want you to verify. But not with CNN, MSNBC. Look over there too. But I want you to be, that's why when I say, be smart. Look for the truth. That means don't look only for one source or two. Verify. Verify everybody until you build a relationship and say, okay, this guy, I never caught him with something. It doesn't mean that person did not lie. You didn't catch that person. So, but still, you didn't catch him. You know, guard up and you lower it. But the guard is always there. And you can push it up whenever. So again, I think these guys were blown up. That's my, or wounded. Next one. Do you remember the ATACMS launched against Russia, I think on two occasions, on 23rd and 25th of this? Well, we have another problem. We know, and then a retaliatory strike or crazy strike with a ICBM with no any warhead in it was launched on Dnipropetrovsk, on Dnipro. Remember that one? Okay, so that was the warning, the last warning shot probably. The next one is going to put a nuclear weapon and hit the whomever. So here, these guys, the Russians, this article comes from yesterday, vow retaliation for Ukrainian ATACMS assault on Kursk region. What does that mean, retaliation? They told you we can only, suspect what the retaliation would be. Upon examining the areas attacked in the Kursk region, Kursk is a Russian oblast, it was confirmed that Ukrainian militants fired American-made ATACMS missiles. So, over the past 3 days, so this is from the 26th, because today we are on the 27th, right there. So, over the past 3 days, Ukrainian forces carried out 2 strikes with long-range Western weapons on targets in Russia's Kursk region, the defense ministry said. On November 23rd, the Ukrainian military launched 5 ATACMS missiles, and then they have evidence here, shot down. That's what they say. And then earlier Monday, White House National Security Communications, after a long denial, confirmed that Ukraine is allowed to use US-made ATACMS ballistic missiles. So that's one, and the other one is on November 25. Ukrainian troops attacked the Vostochny airfield in Russia, Kursk region, using ATACMS missiles. 7 were shot down, but 1 reached its target. As a result, 2 soldiers were slightly injured from falling rocket fragments. So, what do you mean retaliation? They say clearly, if NATO countries allowed the Ukrainians to push the trigger, with everything else being NATO, the brain, the muscles, the blood, the air, the weapon, the bullet, everything being NATO, and the aiming being, so the Ukrainians are just this right here. And when the Russians shoot, they shoot only the finger. That's the problem. They don't shoot the head, which will annihilate everything. But the Russians said, if you allow them to do this, supposedly that means with your help, and we're going to hit you, we're going to strike you. And we lowered the threshold of using nuclear weapons against our enemies. So that's I think it's a clear, decision to make. And they already launched an ICBM, as I said, as a result of ATACMS launch on Russia. So what would that mean? You're going to shoot again in the air? How many times are you going to shoot in the air until you point and you hit the target? All right, that's the first one. I think the Russians will do it. And these guys, we're going to say, see? We're going to say, see? We told you they're evil. And what is that? Confirming bias? Let's look at this one. And this comes from Lavrov, the foreign minister of the Russian Federation. Russia Today, 26th of November. Moscow to retaliate against Kiev's ATACMS strikes. Those responsible for attacking Russia with US-made missiles will be punished, end quote. Okay, that doesn't mean, the command sources, like command posts in Poland? If that's the case or not. Moscow will retaliate against continuing Ukrainian strikes on Russian soil with Western-supplied long-range missiles, he said. His statements came after Kiev fired US-made ATACMS missiles into Russian internationally recognized territory despite an earlier warning from the Kremlin. And I'm quoting, "Missile strikes deep inside Russian territory are an escalatory step," he said. "All of our warnings that these unacceptable actions will be met with an appropriate response have been ignored. Well-deserved punishment," he says, "and no escalation coming from the enemy will force us to abandon our goals. The Russians will take over Ukraine." Lavrov reiterated that Moscow remains committed to neutralizing threats to Russia's security, and reserves the right to strike countries that allow Ukraine to use Western-supplied arms against Russia. You got it? In a video address. This is what you need to know. And please put that in your, frame it. And every time these guys are telling you here that the Russians did it and it's an escalation because of their craziness, remember this one. In a video address last week, Russian President Putin said Moscow reserves the right to strike countries that allow Ukraine to use Western-supplied arms against Russia. Well, I think, and here they use the ICBM right there. On November 21st, Russia struck a weapons factory in Dnipro with its new ballistic missile. According to Putin, the strike was a response to an aggressive action by NATO members who support Ukraine. So if you do this on the 21st and you got 23rd and 25, that means you need to do what? So on the 21st you launch because they did ATACMS. Now they did it 2 times after you did that. They say, you do it. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Chicken. All right. The losers will be the Ukrainians, then the Russians, and then us. Not the guys in charge of us. Now let's see how the Russians are threatening Japan. Why? Because they're just evil, according to these guys. Here. Sputnik. US medium-range missiles deployed in Japan to pose threat to Russian security. Maria Zakharova, whom, needless to say, I like. Very smart, very, determined, very smart, very knowledgeable, very fast. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova stated on Wednesday that the deployment of US-made medium-range missiles in Japan territory would threaten Russian security. Now, if you say, come on, well, let's say the Russians do the same thing to us and put it in Mexico. Would you like it? Or in Cuba? Would you like it? Or you say, oh my God. And that will happen. And then please remember this. Please remember how the media in the West will react when the Russians will say they will do it, next to, let's say, in the northern territories, which is the Kuril Islands. When they go, if they're going to do that, let's say, even though they will not do it over there, I'm just saying, so that's the northern part of Japan. What do you think the media will say here? It's not only that Japan's national security is threatened, the United States' national security is threatened. Why? These guys, the baboons here, they are in Far East by China, by North Korea, to protect our security. So there are 6,000 miles across the Pacific Ocean, or how big that is, to protect us. But the Russians cannot protect themselves next door to Ukraine. Do you understand the hypocrisy? Remember these kind of things. Have them right there in your brain, written over there. Every time you hear the CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and those baboons telling you anything else, remember who did it first. And then if that was justifiable, then why not the other one? Next one. The deployment of US missile medium range. Okay, let's go to the statement. We have repeatedly warned the Japanese side that if, as a result of such cooperation, American medium-range missiles end up on its territory as well, this would pose a real security threat to Russia, end quote. Zakharova said at a briefing, adding that in response, Russia would be forced to, and I'm quoting, take the necessary appropriate steps to strengthen its own defense capabilities. So, there you have it. Next one. This is the last topic, and we have a brave man, which is the Slovak Prime Minister. Now, if you think that this guy is on Putin's payroll, he should be undercover, not like this. He should not expose himself, but he is exposing himself. That tells me not really, because as a mole, you do certain things, but if you expose yourself too much, it's too obvious. So this guy he blows his cover. Let's put it this way. Do you think he is? I think each country should have its own independent foreign policy and nobody should intervene and try to alter it. The problem is that's not how the world works. The strong will impose on the weak. That's the reality. Look in nature. Slovak Prime Minister to visit Moscow on Putin's invitation for 9th of May celebration. So what's wrong with that? Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico is set to become the first Slovak representative to visit Russia on an official trip since the beginning of its invasion of Ukraine. Next year, he will attend, if he will be alive, Moscow's official celebrations marking the end of World War II in Europe, marked by Russians on 9th of May. Fico confirmed on social media on November 27 that the Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin officially invited him, and he gladly accepted the invitation. So, Fico highlighted the role of the Red Army made by Mr. Trotsky, Mr. Bronstein, whatever his name is, and the real name, and the Soviet Union in defeating fascism and achieving victory in the Second World War. He stated that Slovak citizens revere and respect all anniversaries and events connected to the liberation of our territory by the Red Army in 1995, Jesus Christ, 1994, 1944, 1945. Yeah, he should go over there if he wants, and there should be no penalties for doing so. After all, it's a celebration of something that really... Imagine if, let's say, the Soviet Union would have collapsed. Then what? We have the other evil guys on top of... or do you think that Churchill would have said, we'll fight them on the sea, on the beaches, on the landing ground, and we'll never surrender? Oh, give me some whiskey. Do you think that's what he's going to do? No. And he was, again, look who financed Mr. Churchill. Very easy to find out. I will give you... I will send you to a book written by doctor, no, not a doctor, but his historian, David Irvin. Just look into it, right over there, and see Mr. Churchill's War. It's a book like this. Take Churchill's War. Go and read it. I know, Mr. Irvin is a very bad dude. They tell us we should not like him, and we don't like him, all right? Because they labeled him for us. Okay, so because we are baboons, we're gonna listen. Go and read that book, and you don't have to agree with it. But with that information that Mr. Irvin provides to you, you go further and you investigate and see if it's true, right? Oh, okay, he's a bad dude, according to some aliens telling us we should hate our people. Okay, go and check it out. Remember, Churchill's War. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.